My name is Adrian White. I'm a visual artist. I'm originally from North Carolina, a small town called Stantonsburg. I'm a photographer, a visual artist, a nomad, a fomad, a photo nomad. I have a background in shooting. I was a military photographer for the U.S. Navy for 10 years. I traveled the world documenting what the U.S. Navy does, and now I document the world telling the stories of Black people. A digital nomad is just a person that works from a different country than their own. What I'm doing as a nomad means I travel the world. I don't stay in one place. Home is wherever I am. I try to stay in different locations at least a month at a time in hopes of telling their story. All right. I started my career as a photographer when I first joined the United States Navy, and that was 2005. I served from 2005 to roughly 2014. One of the photographers that inspired me was Gordon Parks. He was a black and white photographer, and his pictures were beautiful. He communicated Blackness, the Black experience, and I tend to do the same thing, to document the Black experience, some fine art, some performance, but I enjoy photography. The thing that's interesting about me is that I was in Haiti after that huge earthquake in 2010. I was on the ground. I documented things that happened on the ground during the earthquake. It was a dangerous time. People were walking around with machetes. There was a lot of death. I remember the smell of sweet potatoes, rotten sweet potatoes. Initially, you're like, what is that? And then after careful thought, you realize what it is. It wasn't a pleasant time, but the point was to communicate what was going on at the time so that aid could come to Haiti, and that's what we did. Second thing is I was on the ship that buried bin Laden. In the military, we see some crazy things. We have some crazy experiences. But it prepared me for today, being the photographer I am. It makes it easy to go from place to place. I always say you have to be uncomfortable before you get comfortable, because we don't always do things the same way. Cultures are different, countries are different, rules are different, laws are different. Security and police forces are different all over the world, and you have to understand how people move. So typically when I first get to a place, I just watch, I look, and I pay attention. I try to form alliances with people, and it makes it easier for me to do the job that I do or create the work that I create. As I travel the world, I see similarities and differences in Blackness, in the Black experience. There are things that I can pull from photographs, like we do it just like that back at home, or we might do it slightly different. I appreciate the way that Black people, the Black diaspora, they adapt. They figure out ways to get things done. Went to a church the other day, and it was my first time going to an African Christian church, a Christian African church. And a lot of it reminded me of the church back home. The clapping, the singing, the call and response. In the church here, they had African staffs, so they were beating the ground with the African staff. We'll take away the African staff. In a Black church back home, we use tambourines to keep the beat. They kind of spinned in circles as people were praying in the middle, and that kind of reminded me of the ladies in the church that shouted. We have a lot of that. So it's just so beautiful. I mean, even the foods are similar. We got collard greens. I know in African countries, y'all have something very similar to collard greens. Sweet potatoes and yams. Well, I mean, we have that. I know you guys have something similar to that. So the similarities and differences are beautiful. Yeah, I honestly don't mind criticism at all, especially in an ecosystem of artists, like-minded thinkers, because the goal is just to get your work better. So I listen to it. I actually appreciate negative criticism more than the positive criticism. I'm an educator myself, so I critique work all the time. And that's kind of the thing that I convey to my students is you have to take the criticism. Your work isn't perfect if you want to get better. If you don't want to get better, do what you've always done. It's important to get out your room and talk to people, interact with people. It's easy to get in your own corner and get in your own space and get comfortable in that way. But there's a joy that comes with going out, meeting other artists, seeing what they do, having conversations with them, comparing notes, seeing why they do things, seeing what they're trying to communicate to the world, and helping each other. Building tribe is one of the reasons that I started the Nomad Project. Tribe is important, and we all need it as artists. Relying on each other, whether it's for criticism, critique, or somebody knows an exhibition that your work fits in. So it's always good to build tribe. It's always good to interact with people. And I've been trying to talk to as many artists as I can since I've been here. The best camera is the one that you have on you. And that could be your cell phone. It could be a nice camera, it could be a throwaway camera, whatever. The point is take photos. Only you can tell your story. I can't tell your story. Even though I'm a photographer and I teach photography, I cannot tell your story. I cannot walk in your shoes. I don't know what it means to wake up every morning for you. I don't know what it means to go to work and play and live in the community that you live in. Last year I began the Nomad Project. I packed up all of my belongings and put them in storage in Los Angeles. I drove cross country from California to Florida, and that's when I say I started the Nomad Project. From there I moved on to Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and now South Africa. And I will continue to just move from country to country while I complete this body of work. My end goal is to publish a photo book and exhibition.